I mean, it's like my work is kind of like a gumbo of gravel, or gumbo of gravel, maybe. I don't know. I mean, you know what that would sound like in a Cuisinart? You know, it sounds, yeah, so it's a lot of that. And I just keep on, you know, it's the same menu for me to just continue on with what I'm doing, and everything I do comes from the way I was when I was 16, 17 years old. It's just seems to be like a variation on a theme. It's always been good to do what I want to do, and when I first started, it wasn't that simple. And it was, I had to make a living, and I would do that by painting signs, and I had a job writing names on gift items for Christmas time, and I would do that for about 5 years. I could work maybe 1 or 2 months, and then I could live almost the rest of the year on that. So I had a little bit of an income, and then I could go paint and work in my studio, and that served me well. So it's always good for an artist to have a backup, and I had a backup until I could get going. And it's always cloudy out there. There's no, you have to more or less invent your own future and see how things work. But it's a little like, you know, blind leading the blind, or I mean, you never know what's happening out there, and it's a puzzling kind of thing to try to. You can't write your own history. I mean, you just have to go on blind faith, and that seems to be what guides me. Well, I think my first connection to the art world, the worldwide art scene, was through visits to a library. And I started looking at books on surrealism and Dada. And that had a great interest for me. And I just thought, well, this is a very unconventional and unorthodox way of approaching the world through these various means. And so seeing this work in book kind of got me going. And I didn't visit museums so much. I was not really interested in museums, and until later. And then I saw that museums had much that I missed. And so then I started going to museums. But and then I went to art school for like 3 or 4 years, and that was helpful. But and I maybe learned more from fellow students than I did from teachers. There was always seemed to be a competitive atmosphere that was going on in school, and that made it possible just to make little baby steps forward, you know, and just like you'd be inspired by the very people that you're side by side with, your friends who were also artists. When I think about how people are going to respond to my art, it's not, I run into really a very fog bank. I mean, I can't see through it. I don't make art to communicate with people necessarily. It's not important for me for people to see the way I see things, because I don't even know how I see things. I just produce things that I feel like have to be made official, and I make a picture, and it just has to. I have to satisfy myself with this, and hope that someone, whoever looks at it, can derive something from it. But there's no way to craft any kind of explaining or conceptualizing something to an audience. And so for that reason, I don't really know who my audience is in many respects. It's the way it works. I just think that the artist has to make his report. It's almost like doing a book report, except you're making it about your own work. And the observations that artists go through are not always meant for any audience. You know, artists have to do things for themselves, and the audience is another thing. It's a baffling thing. I think that a lot of art that people make can truly influence other arts too. Like, you know, a person may paint a picture and then someone says, I want to make a costume out of that. I'll use that image to make a costume. And then somebody else will come along and say, well, I feel like there's some kind of cadence or some kind of movement to that. I'll make some music out of that. And so I think music and art and all these things begin to come together. And they can actually, you know, although you're not making sounds with paintings, musicians can actually get inspired by that. Filmmakers can do that. And artists likewise can be impressed and influenced by filmmakers too, and musicians. I know I am, and sometimes it's hard to say where the thoughts come from, but they do, they come.